Hey, Melissa, and welcome to the voice notes from the Organized Homeschool. I am so excited to chat with you and learn from you, learn about your homeschooling. And so let's start by you introducing yourself. You can share with me more about your background, but then also about your homeschool, whatever you want to share. Maybe how long you've been homeschooling, how old your children are, your style of homeschool, whatever you want to share, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, Erica. I'm so excited to talk to you about homeschooling and just looking forward to this conversation and, everything that comes about from this experience, from your podcast and all of that. So, my name is Melissa. I am 30 years old. I'm a Christian wife and stay-at-home mom of four. My kids are 6, 2, 1, and about to be 4 months. So I only homeschool right now my oldest, my 6-year-old, and I have been homeschooling her for 2 years now, since she was 4. She initially was going to a Christian preschool when she was 3 years old. So she was in that preschool for 3-year-olds. And I enjoyed it. It was a good program, but I was pregnant with my second and had him during that year, and then became pregnant shortly after, like a few months later, with my third. And I just realized how hard it was getting everybody ready in the morning. Her school was about 35, 40 minutes away, so we had to wake up really early. And it was just very rushed mornings and wasn't a lot of fun. And I had always had it on my heart that I wanted to homeschool, but I was honestly just nervous and scared and didn't feel confident enough, didn't feel good enough. And it just became one of those things where I kind of just spoke about it with my husband, prayed about it, and we had decided that we'll try and look into some schools in our area that are closer, some Christian preschools that she could go to, but a lot of them were already full or didn't have a lot of space. So we said, we'll apply to the ones that we like. And if she gets in, then we will, still send her to school. If she doesn't get in, then we will homeschool. And so she was on the wait list for one school that we liked that was literally down the street, but she didn't get in at the end of the day. So we ended up homeschooling. So there's a lot of reasons why we homeschool, but that was kind of the push that I needed, I guess, to action. And so, yeah, I decided to homeschool her after that experience. There also was another thing that happened earlier that year when she was in her preschool. So this was 2023, and there was a shooting at a Christian school in, I believe it was Tennessee, that I had heard about over the news. And something about that just, it just broke my heart, because part of me was what if that was my child? What if something happened to my child and she wasn't in my care? And that was also one of the things that kind of pushed me towards really looking into homeschooling and taking it more seriously at that point, because I don't know. I mean, obviously anything can happen at any point in time, but that in particular was just, it was a big thing for us. So yeah, that's pretty much why we chose to homeschool. We started that summer, after she finished that year. So it was the summer of 2023. And I got the preschool curriculum with the good and the beautiful. She already pretty much knew everything, but we did a lesson a day, and it was really helpful because it really helps us practice and build up her confidence in terms of doing schoolwork at home. And it built up my confidence as a mom too. So I kept it very simple in the beginning. We just did one lesson a day out of that preschool curriculum, and it would take us 15, 20 minutes, if that. And sometimes I would split it into two because she was only 4. And then I hope this isn't too long too. It's just a lot of stuff. So then after that, she finished that preschool curriculum the end of 2023. So 2024, they have a kindergarten prep and their math for kindergarten. And then so we did the kindergarten prep, we did the math, and then moved on to the kindergarten language arts after she finished that. And I just focused really on reading, writing, and math. Those have been like the main things that I focused on. For social studies and science, I really think like some parents get super stressed about thinking they have to do these like elaborate curriculums when they're young, when simple things they learn from like like if you're cooking, showing them different stuff about cooking, about the weather, about holidays, about colors. There's so many like simple ways you can incorporate that in everyday life, and they're learning. So yeah, I haven't done like formal curriculums for those things. And it's been great so far. I've very much enjoyed it. I've built up a lot of confidence in myself over these past 2 years. I'm way more confident now than I was 2 years ago. And I'm way more happy now. We don't have stressed mornings. We wake up when we want. We kind of create our own schedule. We have like a set routine, but it's loose. We don't have to follow it if we don't want to. If one day we wake up and decide, let's just go to the park and go to the library, or let's go get some Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, we'll do that. And you can make learning happen in everyday life too. So that's what I love about homeschooling. And yeah.
Okay, thanks for the intro, Melissa. This is so good. Definitely not too much and all super helpful. I appreciate you like giving us insight into why you started homeschooling, and I totally can relate to so much of what you shared around like school safety and the rushed mornings. We were doing the same thing. So my son did preschool for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and we ended up going to a school that was same thing, like 30, 40 minutes away. And it was just him. And I still felt rushed and felt like this is just too much driving for, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old every day. And then there was like a safety incident at his school that was the icing on the cake, where I was like, this is just not right. And so we ended up, choosing to just start with kindergarten, which was last year for kindergarten. So I love this so much of what you shared in terms of like, I'm just saying I can relate to what you shared and can only imagine with younger siblings doing that too. It's just a lot, right? A lot to get to school, and especially when you have homeschooling on your heart and you want to homeschool. So I would love to know, you started to get into it a little bit more, but I know there are probably a lot of people who are going to listen to this who feel similar to you in that they're nervous to homeschool, they don't feel confident, they don't feel like they're enough, and they, just need someone to remind them as to like why they can do it. And so I'm curious to hear, it sounded like you gained some confidence just by doing, which is something I say all the time is like, the moving through fear and like taking action through fear or through nervousness is what actually helps you to build confidence. But when you like decided to do it at first and you didn't have, the lessons that you did with your daughter that went really well, and, the action to build confidence, how did you get up enough courage, I guess, to actually take the leap and do it? I'm just curious about learning more about that, if there was anything else or any advice you would give to someone who is in your shoes 2 years ago and feeling like they really want to make that move to homeschool, but they're nervous about it. And then I love this, how you're talking about like making learning happen in everyday life too, and, a loose routine that you can go with the flow when you all don't feel like doing that routine, or switch things up based off of stuff that's going on. So how do you think about the learning in everyday life piece? So first and foremost, if there's any more feedback or thoughts you have about, your like learning or confidence and how you built that up, and then the learning in everyday life.
Thank you for sharing just part of even your journey. Yeah, that's super cool that we had similar thoughts and why we started to homeschool. I feel like a lot of moms have those same exact feelings. So yeah, it's definitely important to share those experiences. So how did I gain the confidence to homeschool? Honestly, it really was just doing it. I made the decision, and I think having the support of my husband was really important because I didn't really have the support of family at all. Still don't really, but because he's 100% on board, it makes it easy. But even if he wasn't, I think another part is just finding some sort of community that you can lean on to get that reassurance. So for me, I found a lot of groups on Facebook. I would look up homeschooling moms on TikTok and watch their videos, or even on YouTube too, watching their videos, watching the videos on, or listening to what the moms had to say in these Facebook groups. And I read a book called Sarden, like Sarden, Sarden's Practical Guide How to Start Homeschooling by Judy Sarden. I don't even know how I found this book. I think it was like a mom suggested it in one of these Facebook groups. So I read it in like a few days. So I knew everything that I needed to really just get started and to look up like the practical stuff, like the laws in my state and what I needed to, register my child to be homeschooled. And yeah, so that worked for me. Then I joined a co-op the first year that that we like officially were homeschooling. So she finished the year of her 3-year preschool, and then she was technically like a 4-year-old preschooler, and we started a co-op that September. And at the co-op, I met a lot of other moms, obviously, that were homeschoolers. They were way more seasoned than I was, had older children, and just being able to talk with them and seeing how their children just were, it made me feel a lot more comfortable and more confident. And that was also just really helpful. So getting advice and wisdom just by talking with them. So yeah, it's just one of those things. You just have to start, you have to do, and finding community wherever you can, whether that's with your husband, online, in co-ops, churches, wherever you can. That's really the best thing to do to start that. And then for the learning in everyday life, I think especially when your kid is younger, and granted, my oldest daughter is only 6. We're about to start technically her first grade year. So I'm just speaking from slightly my experience and then also just what I've heard from other more seasoned homeschool moms with older children. A lot of them basically tell me it's nice to have, a loose routine that you follow, a curriculum that you follow, but don't get too hung up on these strict schedules and blocked schedules and time schedules that you have to follow every single day and be homeschooling for hours and hours and hours a day, like trying to basically create public school or school in general at home. That's just not going to work, and it's going to make you more stressed out. And I don't even think that would really work with any age group, but especially not when they're younger. And so my goal with my oldest daughter was always to focus primarily on language arts and math, and all the other stuff, not really following a full-blown curriculum, but just loosely learning about things. So for example, for science, my daughter loves animals, and I I also love animals and learning about them. And when I was younger, I used to love watching like Animal Planet, those documentaries about animals and stuff like that. So we actually will watch those together, and she learns a lot. She knows the most random facts about animals that sometimes I don't even fully know. She also loves the show Wild Kratts, and that's something that all my kids enjoy. So it's something nice that I can put on sometimes and not feel guilty about, because they all like it and it's educational. Another thing my daughter loves is Magic School Bus, which is such a cool show because it's entertaining, but it's also educational. And again, another thing where she's learning all these different things. So I utilize a lot of, we call it YouTube University over here. We find a lot of interesting videos that we're able to learn from outside of just curriculums. So when it comes to learning in everyday life. There's lots of ways that I think that happens because I am a stay-at-home mom, so a lot of the cooking and cleaning I do because my husband, he's a truck driver, so he's gone basically all day and only home really on the weekends and at night. So my daughter is learning a lot about cooking. She likes watching me make breakfast, like understanding how to make oatmeal. She loves especially baking with me when we'll make muffins or cookies. She always wants to help me out if I'm making, whatever meat. She likes to help me put the seasonings on. So those are like little things where I feel like you're learning. And on top of that, there's math involved because especially with baking, it's very precise. You have to measure things. And I teach her through that. Just, this is what half cup is versus 1 cup versus a fourth cup and different stuff like that. And it's something that I think it's so good to have these life skills. I wish that I had them more because my mom didn't really involve me in the kitchen or cleaning or anything like that when I was younger. And so I like that I'm able to kind of foster that creativity in my daughter so young. And I hope that, she continues to love cooking for her family in the future. And so another part, even with like cleaning, like these are another life skill that I didn't really learn and I wasn't kind of like, I don't know, it just wasn't really instilled in me. And so when I got older, cleaning became something that I hated. But it's something that's so important just for not even just for a family, but just for any person in general. To be clean is a good quality to have. So teaching her that, like she likes helping me sweep or vacuum and things like that. Even just little things like trying to fold the laundry, putting things in the washing machine. And so, she's understanding how to navigate life. Like as she gets older, it's not going to feel so daunting, like having to do all these different tasks, when she gets older and is required to do them when she's no longer living here. And then other things that I think are learning is we have our bookshelf and our toys. She likes reading the books to her younger siblings or just reading in general. The different toys that we pick, we do try to get things that are more like educational, but regardless, she's always using her creativity with the different toys that we have and creating these games. And I just love seeing how her mind works when she creates these different games and things with the toys that we have. We have like musical instruments that and these are just like, kids' toys, musical instruments that she'll play with or trying to sing. And when we go grocery shopping, when we run errands, these are also things that are important life skills that she learns from and enjoys doing. And yeah, so there's many ways that you can incorporate learning with your child without it being a sit down curriculum, because life skills are very important and very underrated. I don't think people really think, oh, I have to teach my child how to do these things. And it's like, you do, because they're going to be an adult one day and they're going to have to take care of themselves and possibly take care of a family. And it's important to kind of have these things instilled when you're younger so it's not so daunting when you get older. So, yeah, those are the ways that I think that life skills and life can be a teacher as well for your child.
Okay, this was also helpful, and I love how you're like, you just have to do it. And then you gave some really practical advice around like ways in which you did it and got confidence other than just doing it. So I appreciate you elaborating and sharing because I feel like what you said is helpful. Like, you have support, you found community online, you found a book and you shared that book. So, like, so much good stuff. Thank you for that. I will definitely link the book in the show notes for anybody who's listening and wants that. But I wanted to talk about two things that you said, one around support and then one around community. So let's start with support. I've had a few people who I've been talking to mention the same thing as you, as their husband or their partner being really supportive. And I would love to know, and you mentioned that your husband is not home often. So, like, what does that look like? And you are making me, and like this theme continue to come up, I'm like, I might need to do like an episode with the people who don't homeschool, but they support the homeschool, whether that be, it's usually the dad or husband, because I'm just seeing this and hearing this over and over. But for you and your husband, what does that support look like? He's not physically there. So how, how does the support show up? How is it helpful to you? That type of thing. And then you also mentioned not having support from family. And so can you talk more about that and how you've moved through that? Because homeschooling is still as popular as it's become, it still feels like it's unique, right? Like if you look at the numbers, the majority of children go to school, and so a lot of people don't understand the decision or agree with the decision. And so I'm sure you're not the only person in your shoes who's homeschooling and doesn't have the support from family. And so I would love to hear from you, like, you know, anything you want to share around that, but also like how you move through not having that support too. And then let's start there and then we'll come back to the other piece.
Okay, let me start over. So I would say the support from my husband when it comes to homeschooling really primarily support for me. So whenever I'm feeling just overwhelmed or like I'm not doing enough or I'm not good enough, he always just reminds me that this is still new. He's very encouraging. He supports this decision. He wants us to continue to homeschool because his why is pretty much the same as my why. So this is very important to us and it's something that we do want to prioritize for our family. So he's always just finding ways to help me out and emotionally and mentally when I'm feeling, I guess, like low. And yeah. And then in terms of, even though he's not here, he still helps me a lot with choosing curriculum, helping me with like scheduling and stuff like that. For instance, we had this past year, so I use the Good and the Beautiful language arts and math curriculum. And at one point in the middle of, we just finished level one and we were in the middle of doing level one. And my daughter is like a grade level ahead. So technically she would have been in like kindergarten this past year, but we were doing level one math, which is first grade math. And she just wasn't grasping, I think, like addition and subtraction the way I expected her to, like just knowing it in her head. And I realized that she worked best with like having physical objects to see for addition and subtraction. And so one day I'm like talking to my husband, like, I don't know if this curriculum is working because it's feeling like she doesn't know addition and subtraction off the top of her head. And I think I should switch curriculums. And I'm like spiraling about this. And he's just like, all right, calm down, like, finish this one. You still have like 40 lessons or so to go. And let her use objects. It's okay if she doesn't know it off the top of her head. Like she's only 5 at the time she was 5. Now she's 6. And he's like, most kids aren't going to know addition and subtraction that easily. Like, it's something that you just have to keep instilling. And then if you really feel at the end that it's not working, then you can look into like a new curriculum. And so I took his advice, did that. And by the end of it, she is really great at like addition and subtraction now and does know most. Turns out didn't really need to switch curriculum. The curriculum was working fine. It's just I had a higher expectation than I should have had, really. It's like sometimes you just have to chill out a little bit. And then when it comes to like planning the curriculums and our schedules, he helps me out with that. He gives me like his 2 cents because I'll bounce ideas off him. Like, what do you think about this curriculum or doing this unit study? And he just helps me with those kind of things. And then, of course, because he is the one that works primarily, like he buys all the curriculums and all the supplies and stuff, even though, everything's ours. We are married and stuff like that. But, he just like, I just tell him what I want and then he'll take care of it. So that's what support from him looks like. Hold on. Okay. Hopefully all of the interruptions are over. I'm so sorry. It's like they were just fine playing, and then once I came into this room to start like recording, all of a sudden everything is just mommy, 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 and there's always an issue. But the beauty of, of motherhood. So yeah, that's really how my husband helps out, and it's really just primarily in the support factor for me in homeschooling, and that's what makes it easier for me to deal with the fact that leading into why our families don't really support us, because I have his support, it makes it easier to do. And it makes it easier for me to just like overcome the naysayers and the negative opinions of other people. So when it comes to my family, the biggest thing for them is they're just always like the socialization factor. Like, oh, she needs socializing. She needs to be around other kids her age. And she needs to, and this is the funniest thing that my parents will always say, like, specifically my mom, is, oh my gosh, she's so smart, she just knows so much, she needs to be in school. When the reason that she's so smart and she's so ahead of her peers is because we homeschool. Like, she doesn't, I don't know why that doesn't click for her. Like, we're teaching her these things, that's why she's ahead. But in her mind it's like, oh, this is why she needs to be in school, because she's just so smart. And in her mind, I guess it's like she's wasting her brain power by being at home. I don't know. So, yeah. And, almost every single time that I'm talking to my parents, which is like weekly, my mom specifically is always bringing up something about, oh, she needs to go to school. She needs to go to school. And I just ignore her every time because I've already explained it to her and she doesn't get it. So I'm just not going to waste time trying to like constantly force her to understand. And that's something that my husband has reminded me of too, is like, you can't make these people, some people are just going to willfully not get it. And that's okay. You just have to be confident in your decision and know what's best for your child, stick to it, and just be confident in that. And don't let other people's opinions like sway your decision when you know deep down inside what you want to do and what works for you and your family and your children. And then on the other side, his mom is also kind of the same way. They think it's like, oh, they're just at home bored all day, and yeah, sometimes we do have boring days where we're just home and we're not really doing much. But that is where my children are forced then to utilize their creativity and come up with things to play with, games to play, things to do. Of course, I like supply them with different, crafts or activities and things like that. But it's not always up to me to do that for them. And you'd be surprised, like, how much boredom makes them utilize their brain, their creativity, their problem solving skills, so many different things. So, yeah, that's really the main thing. I think like our siblings are a little bit more indifferent to it. Like, they're just like siblings and like cousins or people more our age. They're just kind of like, I would never do that, but good for y'all. So that's kind of the opinion of them. It's really just more so our parents that are very, and specifically both of our moms, that are really like not for it. But there's a lot of things that I do in my life that they don't necessarily agree about, and I've just had to learn that I appreciate their opinions. I appreciate what they think is right, but I'm going to take it from here. These are my children. They had a chance to raise children, aka me, and this is the decision that I've made from my own experiences. And yeah, so yeah, that's really how I overcome that, and what that looks like for me, just dealing with family that doesn't necessarily support us. And again, that's where the online community comes into play as well, because that's a big thing. I see it all the time where people are saying, oh, other people are always saying, what about socialization? I think that's a big thing, that people think homeschoolers don't socialize, when my daughter is more social than I am, and I went to school. So yeah, it just helps hearing other people's like experiences and sharing those things. And then to add on that too, the socialization factor, and not that this is necessary, but my daughter goes to a weekly co-op. She also goes to a weekly gymnastics class. We go to parks a lot. We go to the library a lot where other kids are and events at the library. We'll go to different, play places. We go on field trips. We have like, some mom groups and stuff that we meet up with it from time to time. So she's constantly socializing. And on top of that, she socializes with her siblings and me and her dad all the time. Or when we go out to the grocery store, she's learning about socialization by how we interact with other people there, or run errands, like how we interact with people there. So there's so many different ways to socialize. And like I said, she's so outspoken and extroverted and so friendly and nice. And I'm personally not like that. And even as a kid, I wasn't like that. I was always very shy, very to myself. So, and I went to school. So I don't think school is required for your child to be social.
It really is huge to have someone to like have a reality check for you because when you're in it, you can't see the forest through the trees, right? So you're like, oh my gosh, she can't subtract, where actually she's like on par, doing well, needs a little more time, like, so having someone to just be a mirror for you to help you like reality check, level set, whatever it is, and encourage you and all that. I love that so much. And I find that my husband does the same thing because I'm always like freaking out. And he's like, Erica, it's okay, it'll be fine. It's not all that you're making of it. And I love that, he's the support to help you with like getting through the fact that, there's not as much support and understanding from grandparents. And I love like I'm very similar of like, well, you don't understand it. It's not my job to make you understand and keep it moving kind of, So that is I'm similar in that sense. You started to get into community. That was my next question for you. So you talked about a co-op and library and play dates and things like that. And I would love to know any more about like, the community that you have found, but then also how did you find that community? Because socialization is always the thing on the table when people are planning to homeschool. Like, I don't know if I've talked to anyone who has not been honest and like being a little bit worried about that and like being mindful about the fact that you want your child to have time to socialize. Now, I'm with you too, because there are days when we stay in, I mean, money, multiple days, like we don't go out every day, but there's boring days when you don't have time, you don't socialize, and I'm okay with that. But also, I want to be conscious of the fact that you aren't with kids all day long like you would be if you're in school. So I want to make sure I give you those opportunities. And so, how did you find your co op? How did you find the mom groups that you meet up with? What did that look like for you? I'm super curious about that.
Yeah, so as you said, community is very important. So, in terms of how I found my community, so our situation is a little bit different than, a lot of people. So, both of our families live many states away. We live in Georgia currently, and we kind of, well, I had moved out here on a whim, and then I met my husband, and he was living in Rhode Island at the time, and then he ended up moving out here. And so, yeah, we've kind of like planted our roots here in Georgia for the time being. But my family lives in New Jersey, his family lives in Rhode Island. So we don't really have a lot of like family here and support in that way. So it's really just like us. And in terms of even just like me having super close friendships, like I don't have people that I'm super close to in that way that live out here close to us. And so that was something that was hard to navigate when choosing to homeschool. But, we knew that this is what we wanted to do. So I made it a point to try to find these communities because, like you said, we do spend a lot of time at home with one another as a family. And I'm very like thankful for that because it just I was never really close with my family growing up, and I think that's something that I always wanted. I always wish that I had more siblings or close, like, cousins, or just even being close to my parents in like a way where I could talk to them about things. So I love that homeschooling provides an opportunity for us to do that, like build a closer family knit. But okay, I feel like I'm getting sidetracked. So back to the community. I essentially just like search things on Facebook. Like I love, maybe that's just the millennial in me, but I love Facebook still. And I am always just searching groups and things that are relevant to what I'm searching, like trying to find. And my husband always makes fun of me because he's like, you're literally in a Facebook group for every and anything. And it's kind of true. Hold on. So when I first decided to homeschool, I just started searching groups like homeschoolers in Georgia and things like that. And I found different groups that were relevant and joined them. And I would just really use it to look through what other people were posting. And that's how I found the co-op that I went to. So my daughter's actually starting a new co-op this year, but we went to a co-op for the past 2 years where I was able to bring all my kids, and it was kind of like a little learners group. So it was designed for children under 7, but honestly, I feel like it's more so designed for like children 5 and under. And my oldest was just kind of outgrowing it. So that's why we chose to go to a different co-op this upcoming year that she's going to be starting next week. But the co-op that we went to, I feel like we did build strong connections, and I'm still part of like their group chat. So when they do like activities and field trips and stuff, I do plan on still participating because my daughter did build friendships with a lot of the kids there as well. So yeah, so that's one part of our community, was that co-op. And the co-op that she's going to this year, it was the same thing. I found it through a Facebook group. Someone had posted about it, and I looked at their website. I did a tour, and I went there, and I just felt like it would be a good fit for her and our family. And they offer more like classes, like a school where you can choose classes for them weekly. And I thought that that would be better for her because she just needs something a little bit more structured and organized versus just like play based for where she's at, like in her learning journey. I mean, we're still playing a lot at home and stuff. So yeah. And so she's going to be taking those classes this year, and she's really excited for it. And then in terms of like the mom groups and things, it was the same thing. There's like so many moms that homeschool that just form like these field trip groups or other groups that I just happen to stumble upon on Facebook, join them, and they'll have like park days, park meetups, library meetups, and things like that. And then here where I live in Georgia, the county that I live in, it's Cobb County in Georgia. They offer like a library card essentially for you to be able to go to all of the different libraries, or a lot of different libraries within the whole county. It's not just like your town. So we have gone to like 3 or 4 different libraries within our area, and we just like get their calendar, sign up for like the email list. So when they send the emails for each month about what activities they have going on, I just, I'll go to them. And my kids, sometimes we're the only people that show up, sometimes there's other people there and they're able to like socialize with them. So, and those events are always free, so that's always a plus. And then at the park, same thing, there's always kids playing and it's free. So yeah, and then even my daughter does gymnastics. So I signed up through like the community center in our town. They have like recreational activities for kids like way cheaper than, if you were to sign up for like gymnastics for a under a like more, I don't know, established, or those particular like gymnastics places that are, what is the word, where there's like multiple all over. I can't think of it right now. But yeah, so through the community center, they have like dance, they have karate, they have gymnastics. Different towns offer different things. They have swimming. We do gymnastics, and we've done swimming before as well through them at a more discounted price. And she has friends there as well. So yeah, there's many different ways to socialize your kid, and it doesn't always involve school. And like I said, I really think like it speaks for itself when, you know, growing up, both me and my brother, we both went to school, but as adults, we're still very different people socially. Like, I'm very shy, very reserved, always was the type that only had like one or two really close friends, never like big, super, like super big friend groups, versus he was kind of the opposite, very extroverted, very friendly, always talking to people, had a lot of friends, always going out. And so we were always different like that, regardless of the fact that we both went to school. So I think socialization is really dependent on, and how a child's going to be socially is kind of just dependent on their own like personalities. And then on top of that, like socialization doesn't happen only at school. So I think that's something that a lot of parents need to hear to help them just feel more confident about homeschooling. It doesn't have to, socialization is, it's going to be okay. They'll socialize in many different ways.
Okay, this is so good. And we're very similar in that our families live far away. So my family is in New York, my husband's family is in Boston, and we live in Maryland. And we did live in Atlanta for a little while too. So I feel you on that. And the one difference is that I went to college. We both went to college in Maryland. So we do have friends here who either were from Maryland and stayed or moved and stayed. And so we had that starting point. But we, right before we started homeschooling, moved about 45 minutes approximately away from our first home. And we didn't know anyone here. And so, and this was where we're going to homeschool and find our community. So definitely had to put myself out there. And similar to you, found our first co-op on a Facebook group. Definitely a millennial thing, definitely in all the Facebook groups. Found our nanny on the Facebook group when we had a nanny years ago. Like, Facebook groups are a resource. And if you're not using them, you are missing out because it's so easy to like go on Facebook, search for the group you want, search within the group for what you're looking for. It's really easy. There's like years of content and information in those groups. So I'm glad you shared that. And then, like you said, free things like the library and the park. Like, if you go to those places during the school day, the likelihood of the people who are there are also homeschoolers is high, right? Because if they're there, that means they don't go to traditional school, or, most likely. So definitely showing up at those places and then just putting yourself out there. For me, I similarly am more introverted. I don't know. I have a smaller friend group, but it's not my norm to like go up to someone and be like, hey. But once I was like, my child needs friends, I'm like going up to people and being like, hey, do you homeschool? I'm Erica, and like just introducing myself. So yes, 100%. Okay, there was something else you said. Oh, I'm glad that you ended with socialization doesn't only happen at school. Like, someone, I think it was Tam, I think her talk is your cousin Tam. I'm pretty sure it was her. She just posted a video that was like, the way you would socialize your kid if you homeschooled is the same way you socialize your kid in the summer. Like, go to the things, like be friends with people. And so, yes, I definitely agree. And I'm glad you said. Okay, so I'm realizing I don't think we've talked about organization yet. And when you were saying all the things that you guys have got going on, and like, your new co-op, showing up to play dates for your old co-op, going to library things, I was like, oh, how do you keep track of all this? So there's like that side of organization of like all the things that you're doing with your time. But then also, how do you organize with your homeschool, like lessons and all of that? Would love to hear about that.
That's so cool that I feel like a lot of us are in similar boats, and just in terms of homeschool, where when it comes to, family, starting things fresh, because a lot of us obviously didn't come from homeschool families too, so we're doing something that's completely new. So that's cool to know that, I'm not alone here. And yes, I love Facebook. I guess that is very millennial dated. I love Facebook. So yeah, it is a really great resource, and it's a very unique resource compared to other social media outlets. So yeah, when it comes to my organization, that's something that I've definitely struggled with in the past, and I feel like I'm getting better with it This is now going on our third year of homeschooling. So I feel a lot better about my organization skills now than I did 2 years ago. And also 2 years ago, my daughter was still in like pre-K, so I was still really like just flexible with things. I didn't stress myself out too much over things. So before, when she was in pre-K and then even last year doing kindergarten, I really just focused on language arts and math. So we pretty much did one of those every day. And then I would just incorporate kind of randomly like other things that we would be doing, unit studies of like, I don't know, like the holidays or like me on the map, different stuff like that. But this year, in terms of like organization skills, so I use my phone a lot, like the calendar in my phone, and as like a digital planner for me to see things. And every single night before I go to bed, I write my to-do list or the things that I want to accomplish the next day. And this is just anything, not just specifically homeschool related, but I do include that. And I also have a physical planner that I keep track of everything in as well, because I'm just the type of person that I like to see things too. And I think there's also something more satisfying about crossing out a physical to-do list as well. So I have both. And then I also, this year for the first time, I bought a specific homeschool planner that I got off of Amazon. I'm not sure specifically which planner it is, but I have like my Amazon, one of those things, the storefront where I have a like specific homeschool folder or whatever it's called, list, and I put that planner in it. So I can share that with you if you want. So anyway, using that, and we just started homeschool on Monday, August 4th. So this is only our second day, and I'm using that planner, and I really like it because it's helping me to plan out more in advance, and then as well as just being more organized. So this year I am incorporating more curriculum. So we are doing language arts and handwriting, which I kind of combine as one, and math, social studies, and science and Bible study. And I don't want to overwhelm myself. I don't want to overwhelm my daughter. So really every day we just do math and language arts, and then I'll add in one of the extra three. So, and I kind of rotate it. But she's going to be doing co-op once a week, and she does classes there. So I won't be doing any homeschooling on those days. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are the days that we'll do stuff. So we do, like I said, language arts and math every day. And then Tuesday, I plan on doing social studies. Wednesday, I add on science. And Friday, we do Bible study. So, wait, I just said that. Tuesday, Wednesday, no, Thursday, we do Bible study. And then alternate. So, Friday, I may either do social studies or science or whatever, or we'll just kind of keep it light on Friday and do maybe like a field trip or arts and craft, something that I find at home, things like that. So I'm kind of like rotating the three extracurriculars and then focusing still on language arts and math. And because I have three younger ones, it's when I'm homeschooling my oldest, we're still doing like one-on-one, I'm teaching her. So I have my two toddlers like on either like watching something educational on the TV in my room, or we have a tablet, or I'll give them the tablet, and there's only Khan Academy Kids and Starfall, which is another like educational app, so they like play those games, and that just keeps them like, just so my oldest is not distracted. I know some people are really like against screen time and stuff like that, but I find it to be a resource for sure, and I utilize it to my benefit because, I'm here by myself most of the time, so it's hard dealing with like all these different kids and trying to give one individual attention to homeschool at that time. So that's how I do it. And then my baby, she either just be like on my lap or in her swing or whatever, so, or taking a nap. And yeah, so that's how I plan on organizing this year. And we also do extracurriculars. So she does gymnastics every Thursday, my oldest, and we just all go for that. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's really it when it comes to organization. It's just something. And then on top of that, I will say that I'm still very flexible. When it comes to taking time off, it's kind of just like I play it by ear. Like we take off for holidays, and then if somebody's sick, or let's say one day my daughter's just like, oh, can we go to, I don't know, the Children's Museum or something? And I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. So we'll obviously take off from doing schoolwork and we go to whatever. And I try to incorporate like 1 to 2 what I called field trips a month. And these are just like anything, like even just going to the library and doing an event there, or they have homeschool days at Chuck E. Cheese on the second Tuesday every month. So we like to go to that, and it's like super cheap. We have a homeschool day at the skating rink near us every other Friday. So sometimes we'll go to that, and that's also cheap. Yeah, I find a lot of like low cost things that I try to take them to. And then every now and then, like once a year, we normally take a trip to like the aquarium and the zoo, which are more pricier things, but they're also, fun and educational. So that's why that's more of a like once a year thing. So yeah, that's how I organize. I try my best. I'm not perfect, but I'm definitely getting better. And I think that it comes with time. You get more confident and you get better at it for sure.
Yep. I think even if you're someone who like feels like, oh, I'm pretty good at planning, I'm pretty good at being organized, like things change year to year. So how you were sharing, she was not, you weren't doing a curriculum for all the subjects or more subjects than ELA and math or like just preschool. So like things change. So your planning process, your organization has to change year to year. So it's always going to be evolving, in my opinion. Like you might find some 1 or 2 things, or even just like some like not values, but like principles or things that you kind of live by that stick around no matter what grade or what's going on. But then like the way in which you might do things might change, the tools you use might change, all that might shift because we're dealing with humans. We are human and like we change and evolve and all things change. So 100%, even though you like feel like I'm proud of you, happy that like you're getting better, but I just wanted to share too that like even if it's not about getting better, it's just like, yep, I'm figuring it out for this year, and next year you might be figuring out something different too.
So, speaking of tools, definitely share the link to your Amazon storefront, and we'll put that in the show notes. So, if anyone wants to check out the planner that you use, they can do that. Also, I am definitely a paper and pencil person too. I do both similar, but I have for my business, I use a project manager called ClickUp, and I put some home stuff in there, like bigger, I don't want to say bigger projects, but like a birthday party. I'll put my desk in there because just more stuff to do. And then just day to day, I'm using my paper planner, which is a planner I created. It's called the Homeschool for Freedom Planner. So I'll link that too below. It's PDF and I print it out and use like the discs. But besides that, what are other tools you can give, like your top tool that you're currently using? It could be a tool, it can be a resource, but what's on the top of the list? 1, 2, 3, however many you feel like sharing that you're currently using, or maybe even since we're recording this in August, you just started, so you're like excited about diving into this year.
Yes, absolutely. Homeschooling is very much about flexibility as well. And that is something that I have learned. So even when it comes to like you plan out your week and you want to do things in a certain way, but things come up and everything is really a learning opportunity. So yeah, it changes daily, it changes yearly. And that's one of the reasons why I honestly love it, because it's one of those things that you're able to change and fluctuate depending on your child and what you got going on in life at the time. So, yeah. And that's a great question in terms of my top tools. I guess I would say definitely number one is the planner. I've been using it so far for the past week or so, and it's been really helpful. in keeping me way more organized with our homeschool things, especially since I am incorporating more subjects this year than we did last year. So a planner is really great, and it doesn't even need to be anything fancy. A simple planner will get the job done, and just like planning out, a week or even a month at a time, I feel like, so you're not overwhelming yourself. Also, just like organization with all your curriculum and books. So for me, I personally use one of those 3-tiered carts, and I separate things from there. And then we have like a bucket thing that we use for all like our art supplies. And that's really helpful, having everything in one set place so you can stay organized and not get overwhelmed with that kind of stuff. And then I would also say another great resource for even just like cheap or low cost things is teacherspayteachers.com. You can find a lot of like fun worksheets, unit studies, things like that for really either free or low cost. Etsy also really underutilized, but they have a lot of random like unit studies for really cheap that you can download as well. And then there's also a website that I just started using this year that I really like, and it's all in one, easy peasy homeschool or something like that. And it's literally free curriculum from preschool all the way to high school in every single subject that you can think of. Absolutely free. So that's another really great resource for someone that just wants to start out, doesn't have a high budget, and maybe wants to try, something simple like that. And I would also say, I know every mom is different, but for me personally, we do utilize screen time and things like that. And I found that I think we use it in a way that I think is beneficial. So my kids watch a lot of, if they are watching TV, we find a lot of educational shows that they like. Some of their favorites are Wild Kratts, Number Blocks. What is that one called? Like Umi Zoomy. They like Blippy. He can be annoying, but they learn a lot from him. So things like that where you're utilize Magic School Bus, that's another one they love. That's really cool. And so it's not always such a bad thing, and they learn a lot from it. Like my daughter the other day, she was watching a Blippy episode, I guess, about space. And then the next day we were talking about something, and she was telling me the order of the planets and how Pluto is a dwarf planet and just things that I didn't even know, like the number of moons that certain planets had. And I personally didn't know these things, and she picked up on it just from this episode. So, yeah, those would be my top, I don't even know how many things that is. I guess like 4 things that are great resources for homeschooling.
Okay, this is so funny because my son definitely went through a Blippi phase as well. He was obsessed, and the other show that he went through a phase with is SciShow Kids. Both of those shows will have your children sounding like mini geniuses because it's just like random facts he would just be telling me, and I'm like, where did you learn this? And then I remember, yes, he watches Blippi and SciShow Kids, and he just knows all these random things now. So I just laughing at that. The other thing is I appreciate you sharing all the other resources. I just recently learned that one of my friends uses Easy Peasy with her daughter, and so you reminded me to check it out. So thank you for that. And I do think people sleep on Etsy a little bit. I actually got our morning menu that we used last year from Etsy, and they were able to customize it. It was really affordable, all that. So definitely Etsy, I agree as well. Okay, so I want to ask you about a time where you felt like you failed, like when something didn't go right. What was that time? How did you get through it? And then, like, what do you do differently, or did you learn from that? And, I obviously don't really think there's truly a failure. It's things you always learn from experiences. So, what came from that? I would love to hear about that. And then if there's anything else we didn't get to chat about that you want to talk about, definitely share that.
Thank you for sharing that about Sci-Fi Kids. I had not heard of them, or sci-fi show, whatever whatever the name of it is. I hadn't heard of it before, and I looked it up, and it definitely looks like something, especially my 6-year-old would really be interested in. So we're definitely going to check that out and add that to our list of shows. And yes, Etsy is definitely slept on. I have bought a lot of unit studies on there, especially around specific holidays. I like to use their unit studies like for Thanksgiving, Christmas, things like that. And there always have been less than $5. So definitely a great resource and a low cost option for families as well. In terms of a time that I think that I have failed, definitely been a few times. I will say in general, I think that where I have failed sometimes in my homeschooling has been my patience, and just sometimes getting really frustrated or angry and yelling at my child when I know it really wasn't warranted or the correct response. I think that it has been a learning journey for me for sure, and it's been a way for me to exercise and practice my patience with my child, having more compassion, more understanding, and just helping our relationship grow in general. Because one thing that's really important to me with my children is admitting to them when I'm wrong and apologizing to them when I'm wrong. And, just saying sorry, because that's not something that I remember really experiencing with my own mom during times when I felt like I deserved it or wanted it. And so I always make it a point when I may be frustrated and don't respond appropriately to reconnect with my child afterwards, to explain to them why I did what I did, but it was wrong and this is why. And like I said, apologizing. So I think my failure has definitely been sometimes in my reaction to things. It was really difficult for me in the beginning when I first started homeschooling to get the hang of how to teach a child something that is seemingly so simple. Like in my mind, it's like, okay, 1 plus 1 is clearly 2. Like, you should know this. You knew this yesterday. Why don't you know this now? And so, but learning that obviously her brain is working differently than mine. She is still a child, and I don't want to instill any fear in her when it comes to learning or make learning an unenjoyable experience for her. So that's how I have learned to just become better. And this is, like I had said before, going on our 3rd year of homeschooling, and I've definitely improved in that arena a lot compared to how I was, especially when we first started. So I'm so grateful for this experience, because without it, I don't think I would have realized how many qualities that I have that still need to be worked on. So it gives me the opportunity to do that. And yeah, that's really it. I don't really have anything else that I want to add. I think this has been a great conversation. I love talking about homeschooling, and I'm very thankful and grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much, Erica. I hope that I provided some insight to whoever's listening. And yeah, this has been great.
Thank you. And thank you for that last piece around like the failure, because you are not alone. You are not alone. Even as a teacher who had the patience for 25, 30 kids at one time, same thing. I'm like, if you would just focus, you would be able to do this. Like, and yeah, the I definitely have to sometimes be like, Erica, just relax. He's 5. He is 5. So I feel you completely on that. Last thing is, if you have any last advice, and please tell everyone who's going to listen to this where they can find you on social media, any other places where or things you want to share about yourself, so they can get in touch if they're like, yes, Melissa is awesome and I need to follow her or chat with her more. I have a question for her. Can they send you a DM? All that stuff. Share that, and then that will be it. Thanks.
Thank you. And my last piece of advice would be, if you're feeling the call to homeschool, just try it. Even if it's just for a small season, nothing ever has to be permanent. You can always decide to send your kids back to school. It's not like it'll be the end of the world, but if something in you is calling you towards it, look at all the other, or I should say, don't be afraid to just kind of make that leap. Even if it seems scary, you can do it. All of us moms out here, we all felt that lack of confidence and felt like maybe we can't do it. And yet we did, and we made it happen. So if it's something you're interested in, do some research on it and just try it out. And if you like it after a few months or so, even a year, then just keep going. You can do it. You are very capable of doing it. And to get in touch with me, my main platform that I'm on is TikTok, and my TikTok name is Life with Melissa Garcia. In my bio, I have a link with all my other social media and my Amazon storefront and things like that. My DMs are open, so feel free to message me if you have any additional questions. I love chatting with people about homeschooling, so don't be afraid to reach out. My email is also in that link, so if you want to send me an email, that works too. I try to be as available as I can and be patient with me because I got 4 kids, so sometimes it's hard to respond immediately, but I do my best. So that's the best place to reach out to me. And yeah, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you, Melissa. This was so much fun. And while we're ending the conversation for the podcast, know that this Voxer message is always open. I would love to keep in touch and just like check in, see how things are going from time to time. And I'm sure I'll probably be sending you a question here or there. So thank you again for all of your thoughts and wisdom and resources, everything you shared. Really, really appreciate it. And have a great rest of your day. Bye.